Coming up on Central News tonight, the Hamiltonian living out of her car. It's White Ribbon Day on the 25th, so we look at warning signs for abusive relationships and the river plan for Hamilton. Kia ora, welcome to Central News for Thursday, the 20th of November. I'm Hilary Entwistle. A devastating fire that ripped through Desiree Beasley's rented house in Hamilton saw her left with nothing and no home for her 5 children and herself. For 5 weeks, her children stayed with friends and relatives while she lived out of her car.
To be put in that position at that time, don't really know where to turn, where to go, and having such a big family and who's going to take us all in. And it was hard and it was a struggle. To be living in the car, all over the place, being told to move, and you know, it just wasn't a nice feeling at all, no. And the main thing too is that I did miss the kids a lot because I had to sort of separate them and put them all in different homes. And financial wise, sort of trying to get money into all those different homes to keep them going, as well as myself, and to keep myself travelling around in the vehicle. Yeah, very sad time, very sad moment, and I know, a lot of things all in the one. Emotional, but depressed. I found the depression started kicking in quite a lot too.
You had applied for emergency housing with WINZ, but things were moving quite slowly. How did you find out about Family Works?
Yes, what I found is that I wasn't really getting anywhere on my own 2 feet, and it just felt like I wasn't getting heard. And then when I heard about Family Works and went to the agency, they were offering a lot of help, you know, in all ways. And one main concern that I had at the time was the housing. Just someone to hear and the struggle and in how me and the kids were situated in that, and in what they could offer and help us with. So that's who I turned to, was Family Works, and they've been a great help, and they still are.
And Darren, what did Family Works do to help Desiree?
So when we heard about Desiree, we were aware that she was living in her car and the living situation was really quite desperate. And she had been having some involvement with other agencies, so we first kind of made clear about where our role was and what we could do. Obviously she was really overwhelmed by her situation and things weren't really happening for her. So one of our family workers, Jules, walked alongside Desiree really. It was really just to encourage her and support her, to say, come on, you can do it. These are the things we need to do. These are the people we need to go and talk to get a house sorted for you. And all the other things that we were going to work on, we'll do that later, but right now it was really just about encouragement and empowerment, so that Desiree could feel like, okay, yep, we can get through this.
We hear a lot about the housing crisis in Auckland and in Christchurch, but how bad is it in Hamilton? It's
a significant issue for the clients that we work with, and the other agencies around Hamilton will say the same thing, that we see lots of families quite transient around the city seeking affordable accommodation, and we're seeing children moving between schools as families move different suburbs looking for suitable housing. We're seeing families really being overcrowded, and people are just really struggling financially. The market rates continue to rise for rental accommodation, and that just puts more pressure on families. And we have families where people are living in garages. Occasionally we meet somebody like Desiree who's living in a car. It's a real challenge. There's lots of poverty out in the community, and in Hamilton in particular there's a struggle and a shortage of social housing.
Desiree, you've got a roof over your head, which I know you're so grateful for, but things are still tough. You're living on one side of Hamilton and your kids are going to school on the other side of Hamilton. Can that be fixed soon?
Definitely am, and financial, it's a struggle. The other thing is that maybe 5-10 minutes late to school, it doesn't help. And this has been continuous. I try to do the best that I can. You know, at the end of the day, if me and the kids didn't take this home, we would have become homeless. So we take the home, but financial, it's a struggle. And some of the kids now, are already, getting put out of the schools because I can't get them there on time. And there's some days that I just can't get them there. That's the financial struggle that we are having.
Well, the challenge for Desiree is she's in social housing, and there's just a lack of large homes for families her size, so she's still on the waiting list. There looks like some positive options coming up with some private properties she's looked at. A significant cost for the rent. Accommodation supplement will help with that, but that's still going to be a challenge. But really, the thing is getting Desiree and the kids into a home that they're actually happy and comfortable will be a huge factor for them. So yeah, there's something on the horizon, we think.
In the same neighbourhood, the reason for that is because what I've actually told them when I applied for the housing, I have kids with special needs. So we have a lot of follow-up appointments at that Waikato hospital. I've lived in Melville area for 15 years. There was always a reason to why we situated ourselves over there. And it was because we needed a lot of the kids had to go to the Waikato hospital for a lot of follow-up appointments. The other thing is that in the schools the kids have RTRB teachers and teacher aides. So that's the other thing that I look at, is they have a relationship with those teachers and they have for many years. And to just get up and move them is something that I have looked at. So it's not that easy as they could say it is,
Darren, how can people receive help from Family Works?
Well, people, we're situated at Te Araho Village at 100 Morrinsville Road. So it's a social service setting out there, so people can come and visit us at our site. They can contact us by phone. So those would be the two best ways to get hold of us.
If you or someone you know needs help, you can contact Family Works on 07 858 4413 or familyworksnorthern.org.nz. Still to come on Central News, warning signs of domestic abuse and your weather for Friday. Welcome back to Central News on TV Central. Tuesday, the 25th of November, is International White Ribbon Day to gain awareness around domestic violence. In New Zealand, an average of 14 women a year will be killed by a family member, and 1 in 3 women will experience violence from a partner in their lifetime. Domestic violence is something that affects all walks of life. So what about if we're starting out in a relationship? Are there any early warning signs or behaviours that we can look out for?
And most of the time, woman does know in the beginning, and saying, I was giving him a chance, time to change, and a lot of the time, ethnic women try every single way to try out to work this relationship. They come to the point when they are on the end of it and there's no other way out. Especially if the SIFs got involved or the police got involved, it's gone quite serious where they have no choice to leave. And a lot of the time they do try to reconcile, thinking it might work, he might have changed since I left him. And when they come on the second time, they do sometimes say, I shouldn't have gone. And normally my answers to them is, at least you have given enough chances to him to change. Now you have no regret for later on in the life.
Heather, what do you think are some early warning signs that it possibly could be a dangerous relationship?
when a young woman in particular start saying in their head to themselves, I mustn't wear that dress, he doesn't like it. I shouldn't talk to his friends, he doesn't like it. I won't invite mum or my sister or all my support people round because he doesn't like it. So the isolation begins and the control starts to take over. These are some very early warning signs for our woman, just to go to that Women's Refuge website and take that relationship quiz that's on there. There's some amazingly good pointers on that website about some of the warning signs to be aware of.
And what about if we know of someone who is in a violent relationship and we don't want to be the narc?
That's quite rife in our community. I'm hoping with the It's Not Okay campaign that's changing. And you know, it's really easy to say over the fence, are you okay? That's not me narking, that's just me as a concerned neighbour to say, are you okay? Can I help you? Is there any support I can offer you? It's the beginning of our whole community starting to step up and take responsibility for all our women and our children and what's happening over our next door neighbours' fences. Yep.
And is there that kind of stigma against narking in the ethnic population?
Especially when a woman, normally what happens when a woman is married, and most of the marriages are arranged marriages, forced marriages, underage marriages. And when a woman has got a problem with the relationship, the first one normally she goes to the family, and the family is either might be the husband want more dowry to keep me in the relationship, and the parents are thinking, okay, we can give the dowry to settle this down. And that's something the parents need to decide, or the family, we need to educate, being more awareness that this is the early signs. If this is happening, this relationship is power and controlled from the beginning, to make a judgment only on the conditional, you know, if she listens to me, she can stay, otherwise I don't want her in the house.
And what about if we have a friend that is in a dangerous, violent relationship? How can we encourage them to move on?
Normally we have got programs like coffee sessions, subsidized driving lessons, and that way sort of we do link to the women in the community, so they are aware that we are here and they can talk about just generally asking information, and the staff always around there to give some information what's going on. And also just the Pahutakawa tree cards are really useful in Bay of Plenty area. Normally just giving this to the woman, and it's got all the numbers at the back from the Women's Refuge to Shakti and other services around there to make a contact.
Yep, and I'd agree with Sonia about the Pahutakawa cards. It's got It's Not Okay on the outside of it, and it's got all our DV accredited agencies. Really important to listen to women and to believe their stories. Some of their stories are sometimes unbelievable, and we've got no idea what goes on behind closed doors in some people's homes. And it's our children that we must hold as our precious taonga, so that we need to just even if we start talking about what they see in the future for their children. Family violence, it's not okay, but it is okay to ask for help, is the mantra that we're using. And I think it's so much on our TVs now that everybody in New Zealand knows that saying. So it's a really good opener to talk to our women about. Yep.
Children are quite often exposed to domestic violence, and in fact, being exposed to domestic violence is a form of child abuse. What kind of effect does that have on a child? Do we know how it affects them in their future?
It has huge effect. We know that in the first 3 years, because of the work of the Brainwave Trust, a child's brain, when it's living in trauma, develops differently. DV, domestic violence, is trauma. So we know their brain waves and their brain patterns are different. We know, for instance, that we've got one of the highest teenage pregnancy rates in the OECD countries. We know that our young men are killing themselves at a higher rate than other countries, other Western countries. All of this is showing us what's happening to our kids. We know that behaviour changes when children are brought up in domestic violence. Children can introvert or extrovert. They're acting out what they see. Often all communication is all behaviour is communication. So our kids are trying to tell us things. It's us adults that need to listen to their pleas for help.
How important is it to put the emphasis back on the men, that the men need to stand up and say something?
I think it's absolutely vital. Men aren't the whole solution to the family violence issue, but they're one of the solutions. We as a community need to be accountable for our neighbours and for each of us, but safe men can make such a difference. Safe men saying, actually bro, what you're doing's not okay, it can make such a difference, and we know that.
Are you finding in the ethnic population that men are standing up and saying something against men?
Not many. We have got a family centre up in Auckland where we were thinking if women reconcile, she can go for counselling together. But since we have that office, we haven't seen not even a single case at the moment where men is coming forward to ask for help.
And of course it's not just about physical violence. Emotional abuse can have a huge effect too, can't it?
Well, you can emotionally abuse a woman without physically or sexually hurting her. It is still family violence.
And a lot of the Asian countries, like Bangladesh, over 80% of the figures are the women are getting abused in their homes.
If you or anyone you know is experiencing any form of domestic abuse, you can phone the crisis line on 0800 Refuge, or for the Ethnic Women's Refuge, 0800 Shakti. Just ahead, we look at the details of the River Plan. Welcome back to Central News. The Waikato River runs through the Hamilton CBD, yet for the most part cannot be accessed or is blocked by buildings. Now, after years of discussion, the Hamilton City Council has released the River Plan, which has been developed over the past year. The River Plan is out for public consultation, and Anne-Marie spoke to Mayor Julie Hardacre to find out the details of the plan.
Oh, look, amazing, really. Normally you get 20 people to a council consultation process. We had an open day and got over 200. And look, the overwhelming message from that day that we held in June was, get on with it. We've been waiting decades, give us a river plan. And secondly, a really strong message from that day was accessibility. You know, we want to get to the river, we want to know how to get there, get down to it, touch it, be on it, all of those things. I think Hamiltonians well and truly want to make more use of the river. Some people brought along to that open day pictures of when they were kids and they used to swim in the river and what it meant, you know, decades ago to them, and really wanting to return to that. So look, the plan's been developed over about 18 months, lots of involvement by different groups and key stakeholders, certainly walking hand in hand with Waikato Tainui, who are very important for the river, of course, Waikato Regional Council, Mighty River Power, the River Authority, and we've produced the plan. We've got a month now for people to give us feedback, but look, you know, overwhelmingly people are very, very excited about it.
During that whole consultation process and planning process, did you look at overseas cities such as Perth to get ideas how they've integrated their city with the river quite recently?
We looked all around the world. We looked at home, of course, first. We looked at Auckland and Wellington, and of course New Plymouth's got a great boardwalk on that seafront. So we looked at those sorts of things. We also looked at some of the Australian cities, Brisbane and Melbourne, for example. And yes, all around the world. I think I've looked at every water plan ever made. And look, we got some really useful ideas from some of those plans, principles and things. But what was interesting is the same sort of themes, you know, access, tourism and recreational opportunities, how to get the balance between the hard surfaces and the soft, you know, commercial development and the naturalness of bush and trees. So, you know, I think I can assure you, I've looked at hundreds of them, and you I think ours is really reflective of our place, Hamilton. This is a plan for us, but we've certainly taken some learnings from other places.
The projects have been divided up into immediate starts and future goals. Tell me about those.
Well, look, the plan is for a 30-year rollout time frame. These things are not going to happen overnight, but we certainly have to start somewhere. We really want to get away with some, quick and easy things that we can do immediately, and then there's some major projects that will need to be done. So one of the things we're going to get started on straight away is a really detailed plan of the Ferrybank area. That is going to be the premier destination. Everyone is clear about that, but how it's actually going to look, and to get that balance between commercial development, recreational spaces, tourism, that's really got to be worked out in detail. So that will happen. And of course, we really want to get underway with planning for the swimming pool in the river, which is overwhelmingly seems to be the popular one from the public.
Has there been an overwhelmingly popular idea from the plan that's come back in from the feedback?
Definitely, people really have an affinity and identity with that. A lot of people have swum there, particularly older people. It's always been a popular swimming spot, and the ability to create some kind of pontoon-style swimming pool to make it a really safe sort of beach. So you don't need to go to the beach, you can be at our beach. And also the flower bridge, planting the Puketi walking bridge, colloquially known as the sewer bridge, and turning it into a bit of a garden also has got a lot of appeal. So look, there's some great ideas. People have given us boxes and boxes full of their own ideas. But I think over the next decade, there will be a really big commitment by everyone to really get some of the major projects going along the Ferrybank.
There's a very special event happening this Sunday, the 16th, on Victoria Bridge. Yes. Tell me about that.
Hey, how neat. We're going to shut the bridge down and walk on it. That's a neat feeling. And of course that was the first bridge ever built in Hamilton, right back the Union Bridge back in the late 1880s. So this is a sort of an open day, I guess, on the bridge. Come along and have a look at the plan in detail, give us your views and feedback about what you think about it, and at the same time have a good look at the river, because there aren't many places you can actually do that, and that's what we want to change with the plan.
To find out more, go to hamiltoncityriverplan.co.nz. Now for our weather for Friday. Looking to the seas now. That is us for tonight. I hope you've enjoyed the show. We love to hear your feedback, so send us a message on our Facebook page, centralnews.tv, or email us news@tvcentral.co.nz. On Central News tomorrow night, the Bay of Plenty Symphonia, Christmas is coming to Hamilton in the form of lights, and how your household pet may be a pest. Until then, I'm Hilary Entwistle. I hope you have a lovely evening.
This has been an Alpha Media production, a division of Television Media Group.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.